Benghazi, Benghazi, Benghazi. It's something that will not go away. And I got to tell you, if the next Republican presidential candidate is smart, even if things don't progress beyond this point much for the next couple of years, and Hillary Clinton is the nominee, the next presidential nominee will not let it go away if they're smart, if they have guts, if they get it. But a Republican presidential nominee who's smart and has guts and gets it, I don't think we've seen that in the recent past. Joining us now to talk about Benghazi and Hillary and more is Victoria Toensing, founding partner of the law firm DeGeneva and Toensing. We've spoken to Victoria before. How are you?
Hello, Steve. Well, I'm fine because I'm headed for my home in St. Michael's, Maryland.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. Well, I appreciate you coming on with us. I really do. Now, first of all, your husband made some news last week on WMAL radio. I've been filling in on 9 to noon on WMAL all week. I'll be on again tomorrow. If you're home in Maryland, you could give a listen. But he talked about the fact that he believed he knew what Benghazi was all about, and it was about surface-to-air missiles that wound up in the wrong hands now because of everything went wrong, and that they were trying to transfer these weapons from Libya to the Syrian rebels. Now,
well, they were trying to transfer them, but the people don't report things very well. They don't understand when they hear plain English sometimes. He did not say that they were stolen that night. He said that they were weapons that had been in the wrong hands, and they got in the wrong hands. But it was not necessarily that night. In fact, one of the issues is whether the weapons were used against our people, so that they were in the wrong hands prior to the attack.
Oh, okay. All right.
And the weapons were on their way to Syria via Turkey. I mean, that's been out there, but the mainstream media has ignored it and ignored it. And if we start banging away, maybe they'll pick it up.
And I think Hillary was asked about that, something about Turkey, weapons going to Turkey, and she kind of said, Turkey?
Yeah.
And I felt at the time that maybe the senator who asked the question was onto something,
yeah,
but gave her an out because he didn't maybe say the final destination should have been Syria, and she was able to say, or later be able to claim, well, I thought he meant that the final destination was Turkey. So I thought he hit on something right then and there, but never followed up and maybe was wrong. Talk about the cover-up that's going on. I know you did the other day, and you think this is all to protect Hillary.
Of course. That the ARB is an embarrassment. It is such a farce. I don't know if you have followed it as far as what kinds of false statements are in there. Have you all talked about that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the fact that they didn't talk to Hillary and everything else, yeah.
Well, I mean, on one page they say that the embassy didn't ask for security, but not only did the ambassador at the time, Chris, ask for it, but the ambassador before him asked for it, and my client, Greg Hicks, asked for it when he was still in Washington because of certain things that he was aware of that were on the ground there, and all three were turned down. A deaf ear. And then this ARB that Pickering writes says that they didn't ask enough. But on the very next page, you know what it says? It says that security was lacking, and the four people were going to be in trouble because they didn't respond to repeated requests for increased security. I mean, you just can't believe it. I don't know if you have a copy, but you should look pages 4 and 5 of that ARB.
I will check. Go ahead. Yeah.
And you should really pound away at it. They also, in the ARB, said that the Ambassador Stevens was in Benghazi because of reasons independent of Washington. Absolute false statement. And my client told Pickering that the reason the ambassador was there was at Hillary's request. They requested Hillary. She wanted it to be made a permanent outpost, and he had to get there before the end of the fiscal year, which was September 30th, and so he had to go in mid-September. And they've hidden that.
It is. I mean. So what does this say about the integrity of Pickering?
I don't care about the integrity.
Well, I'm just saying.
He was a hack. I mean, he was a hack.
I know. Well, everybody, you know, in defense of the report, people say, "Oh, look who wrote it, and look at the." Well, you know, I mean, obviously.
No. They don't even know. They were inept. They didn't even know how to do a report. They don't have record stenographers. They have note takers. They don't let. Now, talk about a cover up. They didn't let any of the people who were interviewed see what the notes were. I mean, you know, somebody's taking notes. That's not a court stenographer. That's not verbatim. And then they didn't let any of the people interviewed see the draft report. They did not interview, as I understand it, the 4 people who were dismissed and have now been reinstated. Of course, they did not interview Hillary. And as I understand it, Patrick Kennedy was interviewed with a group, not individually.
We're talking to Victoria Toensing here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Okay, so is Hillary going to get away with this? And if she is the nominee, will it come out? Let's talk about the Republican nominee first. I mean, do you agree with me?
No.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about the Republican nominee because we've got 2 years. Guess what? The House leadership should get off their duff and be tough about this. And they're not. Well,
I had Frank Wolf on. He's calling. He's out. I hate to say he's a lone wolf, but he's out there. You know,
a lone wolf.
And he's excuse me. He wants a special committee, select committee.
Yeah, and if they're going to do that, they've got to do it right. They've got to put the right members on it, because if you have some of those dunces who are right now committee chairmen who do not know how to ask a question and certainly don't know how to do a follow-up, it's not going to work. You've got to get on your really tough guys like your Jim Jordans, your Chaffetz, Trey Gowdy. You've got to get people who know how to ask questions, because a whole bunch of these chairmen don't. They've reached seniority in their chair, but they don't know. They have no idea what they're doing.
Well, what's the deal with Boehner? Why will not Boehner? Why
should go after him?
I mean, I know the problems we have with him on immigration. I know the problems we have with him on health care. But what's the problem on Benghazi? Just have the committee and let the facts come out.
Well, he kept ISA from being able to subpoena for a long time. Here's the story. Pickering just wasn't available. Every time ISA would ask, he'd write a letter. Oh, could you please, pretty please, come up to be deposed? Pickering just couldn't find the time. Guess what?
No subpoena.
They finally slapped a subpoena on him, and he found the time within a week to 10 days. And these Republicans, first of all, they sound like whiners when they come on and say, well, we've written 3 letters and no one will say anything. Subpoena them. This is what it's supposed to be. They don't know how to play hardball. I'm so frustrated.
It is frustrating. It is frustrating. Now, as far as Hillary goes, how much culpability does she have? I mean, let's say obviously everything you said. Let's assume that it's true. Work on that premise that Hillary wanted the ambassador there and wanted to beat the fiscal year and wanted to set make the base there permanent and the embassy permanent and all that kind of stuff. And what gets me though, what's even worse than that is saying to the victims, and there's a mother. There's one of the mothers of one of the dead Americans who goes on the TV shows every so often, and that'll have her because she's basically ignored. And she says, this woman is lying to this woman. It looked me in the face, and she said she'll call me. They'll let me know. They've done nothing. I've heard nothing, and nobody cares. And the father of one of them, who says that Hillary looked away from him, looked right by him, but whispered in his ear, "We're gonna get the guy who made that video." I mean, and this is where it is, and this is where it stays. And I just can't imagine that she is going to get away with this and run for president and possibly be elected with this over her.
Well, let's get the House Republican leadership to start pressuring them, because they need to get this together. They need to put this out there that they're going to fight and they're going to be serious about it. And the White House knows. The White House knows that they're being chicken about it, and they're just playing on it. They're playing jujitsu with it. Letters come, well, we'll give you 3 documents. See, we gave 3 documents. I mean, they know how to play this game, and we don't know how to be tough.
You know what I often wonder, and I've wondered it out loud a couple of times recently, and I think back to Roberts even, and I'm wondering, his change on health care, and then, of course, comes the revelations of the NSA, and I'm thinking, does it get made clear or in a subtle way to some people that, hey, we know a guy named so-and-so. I mean, or a woman named so-and-so. I don't even know anymore because I can't. Roberts is one thing, but I don't know what the heck Boehner's thinking. I don't know what Cantor thinks. I don't know what McCarthy thinks. I don't know what any of them think or how they call themselves Republicans or the opposition party. I just don't get it.
Well, they have over 100 and some signatures for this special committee.
Yeah, about 140, 160. I forget what Wolf said. Yeah.
So I was 50-50 on it because I know all the downside because Joe, my husband, law partner, and I did the Teamsters investigation in the 1990s when Newt called us up and told us we had $3 million to do an investigation, and it turned out we had $300,000, which we had to share with the Democrats. It's hard to find many staff that you can put on less than $300,000 payroll. And we didn't have an office, we didn't have a phone, we didn't have a fax. We were for our first hearing, which was 6 weeks after we were appointed, we were interviewing witnesses in stairwells. So the Republicans have to be smart. If they're going to do it, they better get the facilities ready. They better be ready with the staff.
Absolutely. All right, Victoria, always a pleasure to talk to you. I hope you have a wonderful time at your vacation palatial estate. And think about inviting Barack Obama's family up there next year for vacation.
I think it's probably too down low for them.
All right, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Victoria.